Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sake Revolution. This is America's very first sake podcast, and I'm your host, John Puma from the Sake Notes. Also, the internet sake Discord guy, the Reddit r/sake guy, and around these parts, I'm the sake enthusiast.
And I'm your host, Timothy Sullivan. I'm a sake samurai, sake educator, as well as the founder of the Urban Sake website. And every week, John and I will be here tasting and chatting about all things sake and doing our best to make it fun and easy to understand. So, John, we've done Saga Sake before on this podcast.
We
did a whole episode on
We
Saga.
do. We're big fans of Saga Sake, but not the biggest, apparently. There are bigger fans of Saga Sake, and we're gonna get to what that means in a moment.
Yeah. I heard there's this project happening with like breweries collabing and promoting Saga Sake, and I don't know enough about it, so I think it's important we bring in the big guns.
It's important to have a subject matter expert on the show.
Well, I want to introduce our expert for today. We are so happy to welcome onto the show Jessica Joly, who is a sake sommelier. She is Miss Sake USA, and she is also the director of marketing at Sake Discoveries. So Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Jess.
Hi, Sensei. Hi, John. It's an honor to be featured on Sake Revolution.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been waiting for my star moment. So here.
Well, this has been a really long time coming, Jess. It's great to have you on here.
Yeah. So can you tell us how you got into sake and maybe a little bit about your work with Sake Discoveries?
Absolutely. My first interaction with sake was as a bartender at this restaurant in New York City over 10 years ago. As somebody who, was just kind of the party girl in college, I guess you can call it, discovered sake because I worked at a Japanese restaurant and they had told me you'd never had sake before. And I was like, no, although I'm Japanese American. And then tasted sake for the first time, specifically Junmai Daiginjo, and just blew my mind. And I was just like, what is this amazing beverage? I need to learn more about it, especially because I felt a connection to my historical roots being Japanese. That was really my what if moment, and 10 years has passed. I, like you mentioned, was gifted this title, inaugural Miss Sake USA, who's given me an ambassador program, but now I currently work at Sake Discoveries with Shizuko Nikawa Helton. And my role there is really to develop and strategize and coordinate and execute events. So it's been really exciting working with different kind of tech companies, a lot of banks, and really to educate sake. So it's been a really exciting journey here in New York and really just spreading sake awareness. So I would say it's definitely a niche market, but it's thriving.
Nice. That's great. Now, getting right into this particular project and what we're talking about today, the Saga Sake project, how did this whole thing come together and how does this work?
So this whole project, the Saga Sake, has been very interesting because we actually started it the first round during COVID, working with the Saga Prefecture to actively promote the Saga brands. So you guys probably are familiar with brands like Amabuki and Shichida and Azumaichi. And that was the first initial round over 2 years ago. And then last year, we got an opportunity to bring these new brands that want to have placement here in the US. So we started by selecting 9 different breweries and then eliminated it down to 5 breweries based on interviews, how their quality control their sake, the philosophy, and what interests they have in the US market. So we eventually picked these 3 that we are now featuring.
So you guys actually had like involvement with the selection and how this whole thing worked out. That's fantastic.
So it's a set of 3 sakes from 3 different makers, and they're all from Saga Prefecture, and they're kind of introduced as a set. Can you tell us anything unique about this set, or how did you brand it, or what can people look for when they want to look for these 3 sakes from Saga?
This collaborative collection of 3 sakes is unique because typically you see brewers branding within their own production, right, within each brewery, but these are all made by 3 different breweries. So we have first Koimari Brewery, then we have Mitsutake Brewery and Yano Brewery. But when you look at the set, you'll notice the unique design, the labels. And so that was something that we really wanted to involve in the US market, because we wanted it to be able to be accessible for the consumer. So when you see it, you'll see the label of the feeling that's, or the emotion, the aromas or flavor characteristics of that style of sake. So that is super, super cool. I hope that the viewers can one day find these bottles and say, hey, that's Saga Sake.
Yeah, for our listeners at home, the show notes will feature pictures of each bottle. We realize that, it is a little bit of an audio podcast and it's hard to do that, but we do have photos for you guys to see. These labels are amazing looking. They are really wonderful. We like to talk about sake labels and making sake more accessible for the Western audience, and I think these do a really great job of that. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because the labels are all visually connected, but it's 3 different breweries, and that's not usually the case. So it's a really unique coordination between breweries, the prefecture, and marketing to a U.S. audience. And the labels, one has an octopus on it, one has a pineapple, and one has a mushroom. And you really have to check the show notes to see these labels because they are so creatively designed.
Yeah,
absolutely. One thing I want to add too is that when you touch the labels, they are actually embossed. So if you look closely, there's small rice grains built out into the full label design, but you can touch them. So it has a very sensory experience.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So the little rice grains make up the outline of the octopus or the pineapple or the mushroom. And it's on a black background, so it really pops and it's very visual. And the bottle colors are different as well, too. So it makes a very striking set when you see the 3 bottles together.
Exactly, Sensei. That's right.
All right. Well, we talked a little bit about all of this. I think we had to get to my personal favorite part of the show, the part where we actually taste the sake and talk about it. So which one are we going to start with?
Yes. So I suggest starting with Koimari Brewery. So this is the black bottle with the label of the pineapple, which is personally one of my favorites, right? Everybody, especially in the summertime, we want something that's a little bit more fruit forward. I mean, what do you think of when you see a pineapple?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think of those tropical breezes. That's what I think of.
Exactly. And so when you look on the label, you'll also notice that each bottle has a Japanese kanji. So this one is called kudamono, which translates to fruit. Right. So it ties the fact in this is going to be a little bit more fruit forward.
So whether you speak English, Japanese, or no language at all, you can either see the pineapple, there's the word tropical here, or the kanji for fruit.
Exactly.
So you've got all the bases covered.
Absolutely. And, these days, everybody has their phone. They can take a photo. It's super Instagram worthy.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
It just speaks to everyone, and you want to bring a bottle to somebody's house. This is exactly that. So as you can imagine, I mean, my favorite part of drinking sake is tasting it. So we have to really enjoy this tropical aroma here that we have.
Yes.
All right.
So before we taste, do you want to introduce us a little bit to Koimari Shuzo? Tell us about the brewery that makes this tropical one.
Yes. So Koimari Brewery was established in 1909, so it's fairly new. The president is a female producer, Kumiko Maeda, and she is the 4th generation president. And there's only about 10 people working at the brewery, which is awesome.
Wow.
I know it's fairly tight group. And one of the kind of interesting historical references is that they used to be a kimono house. So they don't have I was like, can you show me some of the kimonos? But previously, before many generations, they used to sell kimonos and was like, you know what, we need to start making sake. So that's why they transitioned in the early 1900s to start making sake. And here they are. And if you are familiar with the region of Saga, you may notice the word koimari. So imari, as we know, is used for the ceramic and pottery terms, imari, there's a town that's famous for that. And ko signifies old imari, which is where the brewery gets its name. So basically, it's signifying the old town of Imari.
All right. Well, let's get this tropical Junmai Daiginjo in the glass.
Lovely.
And this is where we do our little ASMR. We pour. So we've all got the Koimari Tropical Junmai Daiginjo in our glass. And Jessica, if you will allow me, I have some of the stats here for our listeners.
Yes.
Okay, it's a Junmai Daiginjo grade. Mm-hmm. And the rice that they use is omachi. I know John's a big fan of omachi sake rice. It's polished all the way down to 50%. And the SMV is -1. And we have an acidity of 1.5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are some great stats to kind of orient us as we go in and taste this. So let's give it a smell first.
Absolutely.
I smell the pineapple.
Yes.
Is it the power? We always debate this. Is it the power of suggestion? But I do smell pineapple and tropical fruits for sure.
Definitely have the tropical fruits there.
Absolutely. Maybe even some mango. Get that?
Yeah.
And melon.
Ooh, melon.
This is the fruit bomb, Tim.
This is
yeah.
It's giving me beach vibes.
Oh, this is wonderful. I love the aroma on this.
It's so good. And it's also one of those things, that you can really get a big floral essence, and it's so soothing, and it's so beautiful.
And it's soft as well.
Mm.
There's no sharpness to the aroma at all. It's tropical fruits, again, the pineapple, melon, mango. And this is definitely a case where the label matches the sake perfectly.
Yes, definitely.
Like you are getting those tropical vibes from smelling this. All right, let's give it a taste, John.
And I also like to point out, because it is so fruity, a larger vessel for drinking. Like I think Tim and I, right now, we're enjoying it in a beautiful big wine glass, because it really heightens the aroma. So that definitely helps bring out those beautiful tropical fruit notes.
Oh, wow. This is definitely one of those cases where the aroma is accurately representing what you're going to be tasting. That tropical fruit's right up front. There is that rich omachi note that's in there that's kind of like accompanying the fruit, and it's a wonderful combination. I'm a huge fan of the sake.
Yeah, it gives it some depth and some foundation, the rice selection. But I do have to mention the thing that hit me when I sipped on it was the sweetness is there too. Mm-hmm. Like this is not a super dry sake, SMV -1, and there's just that layer, just a note of sweetness, which you expect when you smell those tropical notes like pineapple and melon. You expect a hint of sweetness there, and it's very well integrated and balanced, but it does have just that hint of summery sweetness on the mid palate. Do you guys think so too?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It goes towards the balance of the sake as well. It just everything just really comes together really nicely, and I think you need all of those components to make it work as well as it does. Right,
and I also think because it's so juicy, there's nice balanced acidity. Like you mentioned, it's not overly sweet. It really kind of rounds out, which makes it super food friendly. So it's very, very accessible.
Yeah, speaking of food friendly, any pairing recommendations you like with this tropical one?
When we think about fruity styles, I think everyone automatically thinks, oh, let's have a fruit punch or a fruit salad. But for us, when we've tasted this sake, it actually pairs really, really well with like something spicy or salty. So try like a nice pork foie gras pate. Right, we're going really fine dining.
I don't have one of those handy, but I'll try.
But the saltiness really comes out, and then the fruitiness, it really goes hand in hand. Or like roast beef, right? Something that you can easily make at home. The floral notes, and if you have some herbs like sage or rosemary, those kind of herbaceous notes with tropical kind of go hand in hand. and actually even some tuna. Funny enough, you think tuna has a little bit more of a richer flavor for fish. But again, that fruitiness really complements the juicy tuna. So go get some sashimi tuna for dinner tonight.
I'm on it.
Yeah, I love that tropical and fruity connection. Like if you have a cheese board and there's like a funky cheese on there, what do they have right next to it? They have grapes and little slices of fruit, and you nibble on something salty and funky and then a bite of something fruity. It's a wonderful sweet and savory combination.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think about even blue cheese with some grapes or cranberries, those kind of things.
All right. Awesome. So that was a fabulous start. So that was our Koimari Tropical Junmai Daiginjo. Fabulous. We have 2 more to go for this amazing Saga sake set. Jessica, what is the second sake from the set we're going to taste?
Yes. So let's pull out Mitsutake Crisp. This bottle is the blue bottle. So when you look at the color blue, especially for a bottle of sake, to me, I start imagining water, right? Because
Definitely.
It's so clean, so pure. So that's exactly the image that we were going for. And Mitsutake Crisp emphasizes, we've translated it into umi, which means ocean. So when we think about the ocean and crisp, this sake is going to be clean and crisp.
Yeah, and I've got the label here, Jess, and I'm like touching the label and I can feel the little rice grains, just like you said. It's got that texture on it. It's amazing.
It does. And again, we want people to enjoy that. The label is so thoughtfully designed, and really it's making sake accessible, right? That's what Sake Revolution is doing. That's what we are doing as Sake Discoveries. But we want new generations, social media, people to be Instagramming it, people to be talking about it. And who doesn't love a good octopus design, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. So what can you tell us about the Mitsutake Shuzo, the brewery that makes this crisp one?
Yes. So Mitsutake Brewery was established in 1688. And the current president is in its 14th generation, Hiroyuki Mitsutake. And one of the things I thought was very interesting is that they use table eating rice, yume shizuku, for this bottle. And the philosophy is innovation from tradition. So I find that they're very experimental in that, for instance, they're using this classic table eating rice for this sake, which is kind of unheard of. And it can be quite challenging, but they're able to take that risk. And they're a little bit of a bigger producer. They have over 100 employees.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
So 10 times as much as the previous bottle.
Exactly. So, the fact that they are using table eating rice and kind of taking those adventurous steps, not only are they making sake, in fact, they're making other products like shochu and gin and plum sake. So in a sense, they're able to play with a little bit more and be a little bit more experimental.
All right. I'm going to quickly run through the stats on this bottle. Much like the previous one, it is also a Junmai Daiginjo. The rice here, the koji is a Yamara Nishiki, and the kakamai is, as Jess had mentioned, the Yumi Shizuku, polished down to 50% of their original size. Alcohol by volume here is 15%. We got 1.4 acidity, and the sake meter value isn't even 0.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pour the crisp into my glass. This is, again, another Junmai Daiginjo.
We're spoiled today, Tim.
Yes. 2 Junmai Daiginjos back to back.
All right, we've got it in the glass, and I'm going to give it a smell. Very different from the tropical.
Oh, yes.
This one is much more reserved, quiet.
Very much so. There's some faint fruit, but it's very restrained, especially in comparison to the previous fruit bomb that we had. Yeah. But also very, very nice. I like the subtlety that's going on here. Yeah,
I smell also just a hint of rice. But again, very subtle, very restrained, super clean aroma.
For me, it's presenting more like the sweet rice, but that's probably because I'm getting a little bit of fruit on it too, and fruit and rice, so sweet rice.
Yeah, I believe there's like subtle steamed rice notes and maybe even a little hint of citrus, like a tiny hint. Maybe.
I think I understand I get that.
Yeah. but it's really quiet, really restrained. So people who like those clean, really pure styles of sake, I think are going to love this one. Okay, let's give it a taste. Oh, yeah.
Tim, this is like right up your alley.
Well, the previous one was John's
totally.
style of sake. This one is my style. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the citrus, John, can you taste it?
It's there, definitely there on the palate. It presents a little bit for me, a little bit up front. And just that this is very, despite being quote unquote crisp, it's very smooth and very easy drinking.
Yeah.
Dangerous. Yeah. Dangerously easy drinking.
Smooth like water,
there
they say, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think there's also a really nice mineral finish too. Like you said, we wanted something that was very iconic and easy to recognize. So like you mentioned, it's quite opposite from Koimari. So Mitsutake is just going to be mineral, clean, crisp, straight to the point. So it really hits all the marks.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. A lot more than one would think I would like it, given my past. This is much more of a Tim sake, but I'm all about it.
This is very much a Tim sake.
Yeah, very easy drinking. And I want to talk about the texture for a second too, because this is SMV 0. And that, as our frequent listeners know, means that the density of the sake is the same as pure water. So this has that water-like texture to it, and it complements the flavor so well. Really, and the finish is clean. So for people who like, again, those clean, crisp styles, this is really exactly what you want. Now, when I ask about food pairings, I don't have to ask that much because it's right on the label, right? The octopus, the poor octopus is the pairing, isn't it?
Really, you know what? We wanted you to enjoy him, but also eat him as well.
Well, then that explains a lot.
Well, besides octopus, any other pairings you like with this crisp one?
I think, again, this hits all the boxes in the fact that it can be super versatile. You can start all the way from something light as a seaweed salad or a nice light carpaccio, obviously, even if it's not octopus, fluke, any kind of white fish, sushi, obviously sashimi, or even grilled or fried fish. I mean, I think you could even do something that's like a green vegetable that tends to be a little bit more bitter. Because like you said, it has that nice texture, like artichoke. I think grilled artichoke or something like that would be wonderful.
Yeah. The nice thing about being in this crisp category and being a little bit similar, at least in my mind when I'm tasting it, a little bit reminds me a little bit of a lot of like Niigata style sake, is that it is so versatile with food, and you can put almost anything in front of a sake like this and it's going to really have a great effect with it.
Yeah. And I love what you said about the bitter green vegetables, because when I lived in Niigata, one of the things I did was I collected spring mountain vegetables. They are only out for like 2 weeks a year, and you go up in the mountain and you collect these vegetables and they steam them or fry them, and they're bitter, but they're so young and fresh and tender. So I think that's one of sake's secret weapons. It can pair with bitter foods really well. Don't you think?
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. And that's one way that I always try to lure my wine friends into sake, because again, the acidity is much lower. And it's so versatile and compatible with different kinds of food. But specifically for this one, like you mentioned, it's so smooth with the texture. It pairs excellent, even with nuttier like vegetables like bamboo shoots, which maybe you might not think about as often. But like you mentioned, those bitter greens are great with sake.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice. Well, we've got one more sake to go in the Saga sake set. Just take it away.
Yes. So the last one, right, is a very fun bottle because it's clear and the color is slightly yellow. So you're going to be like, what is this? Well, in fact, this is an aged sake. The brewery is Yano Brewery. So let's take a look at it because it has a mushroom on the label.
I think I know where this is going.
I know. What does mushroom insinuate, right? What does it signify?
Yes, well, it says right here, umami.
Tim, that's cheating.
It's an open book test. And the Japanese character for this one?
Yes, is umami.
Oh.
For that.
Umami.
And I think, right now in the culinary world, a lot of people use the word umami, right? Because it's that fifth sense. And so when I think about that, to me, this is going to bring that savory, that saltiness, that sourness, all of those things together in one glass. And I think that's just really, really unique. And as you can tell by the color, this is very different. It is 5 years aged.
All right. Well, let me give the rundown for our listeners for this sake. So this is Yano Umami Aged Kimoto Junmai. Ooh. This uses a sake rice known as Kita Shizuku. That's milled to 75%. Our sake meter value is +5. Acidity is 2.2, a little bit on the higher side there, and 16% alcohol.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jess, what can you tell us about Yano Shuzo?
So Yano Brewery was established in 1789, and the current president and Toji, so he does do two roles, is in its 9th generation, Motohide Yano, and currently only 4 people work at the brewery.
Oh, wow.
We're taking it back down. 4 people. So literally, if we're on this podcast with 3 people, we just need to bring one more person in that,
That's amazing.
So it is a very small production.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's quite a long time when you think about it, right? Because 5 years, a lot of things have changed. But in this beautiful brew, you notice the color, you notice the umami, and I highly suggest the listeners to try this sake at all different temperatures.
All right. Well, let's get it in the glass and talk about this color.
Yeah. Again, you'll notice that the bottle is clear, which is also quite rare sometimes for sake bottles. So you can really enjoy the beautiful yellow golden hue. What do you think, Sensei?
Yeah, the color here is definitely straw colored. It's almost like an apple juice color. Like it has that golden hue to it, caramelized golden hue. Yeah. But it doesn't get into the amber colors at all. So it's a very light golden color, but yeah, almost like, for me, like an apple juice color. Yeah. Really beautiful.
It seems a little bit light for 5 years of aging. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely on the lighter side, but like Tim Sensei mentioned, it's just the right golden. And I think when you really get that whiff, I highly suggest drinking this out of a snifter glass because it really encapsulates the aroma and it has so much to offer. I really believe that this is a little bit more complex.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's give it a smell and take in that aroma. Oh, wow. This is like a textbook example of what umami expresses in an aroma.
This is the umami bomb.
Yes, it is. And you may notice some cacao, cinnamon, slight caramel notes. These are all things that, I personally really like.
And a little butterscotch. And also in the back, I smell some of those lactic characters that are common in sake. A little bit of that creamy, milky, yogurty smell as well. So very complex, very deep aroma.
Absolutely.
Now this is, as you mentioned, when you said textbook, that is, I was like, yes, absolutely. This is the quintessential umami. This is the aroma I think of when I think of aged sake. This is something that I think of when I'm thinking, what kind of sake would you warm up? Like, this is it.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, we have to taste it to fully enjoy. So.
All right, here we go. Oh, it's so savory.
Yeah.
Super savory. Salt.
Super savory. It has those soy sauce and miso mushroom notes. Again, a little bit of warm spice, like you mentioned, Jessica, like a little of the cinnamon. Yeah, really delicious.
Oh my gosh. And again, I think one of the fun techniques, John was doing it earlier too, is even if you decided to start drinking this sake chilled, like let's say you just pulled it out of the fridge, hold the glass with your hands to like let it open up, warm up to body temperature, because within 5 to 10 minutes in such a short period of time, I believe that you'll notice a little bit more of the aromas to shine through. And even on the palate, the texture, it does start to warm up and change a little bit. So that's the fun part about sake.
I couldn't agree more. And that is such a good point, because if you want to try sake at different temperatures, you don't have to get out the sake heater and boil the water and whatever. You can just warm it with your hands and leave it out on the counter and let it warm up naturally. It's a great way to play with temperature that's super low tech and you don't have to worry about it.
It's easy peasy.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So this is another label with a pairing suggestion on the label. So we want to pair with mushrooms. My mind is already ablaze with ideas for pairing, but Jessica, you're the expert. What are some of your favorites with this? Oh
man, I mean, this one is literally endless. There's so many different things. Mushrooms, right? Truffle season is amazing. Bacon, right? Think about those kind of fatty meats, even lamb chops, aged cheese, braised beef. And then you might think this is a little bit avant-garde, but hey, try it with some vanilla ice cream, like really.
Yeah.
We did a whole episode where we did that vanilla ice cream and we loved it with a different aged sake, but this one would be perfect as well. Yes. Amazing.
Even, dark chocolate, honey, fried fruits. This is a sake that you can drink solely on its own, with food, with dessert, or even on the rocks last night, poolside, on the rocks by the pool on a hot summer day.
Yeah.
Lovely.
That sounds nice. You obviously had a better day than I did yesterday. My day wasn't bad. That's just hard to beat.
What about people who might be a little afraid of aged sake if they see this in the bottle with the darker colors? What's your advice for people who might be unsure about aged?
Yeah, if this is their first time, again, the aroma is very potent in that sense that it's striking, right? So if you're a little intimidated, take a few ice cubes and then serve it in a rocks glass, because just that little bit of dilution will soften the palate. It'll soften the aroma. Call me a little crazy, put a little cinnamon stick in there too. You can make it like it's your own dessert cocktail.
So now my understanding is that people in the New York area have an opportunity to taste all of these sakes and more at an event coming up very soon.
Yes, this is super, super exciting. On September 19th, which is right around the corner, we are hosting these producers at Sakagura, the famous Sakagura sake bar here in Manhattan. Guests can purchase their tickets on Eventbrite for a meet and greet. So we're featuring Koimari Mitsutake and Yano Brewery from Saga Sake lineup, also including Amabuki, Azumaichi Brewery, as well as Mizunomai Shochu. So all these producers are from Saga Prefecture, and we will be featuring their sake and shochu tasting for guests who come alongside food from the chef from Sakagura. So it is $75 a ticket. Purchase those tickets from Eventbrite, and guests who attend get a very special Arita porcelain sake cup as a gift.
Ooh, that sounds great. So if you're in the New York City area, again, it's September 19th at Sakagura in New York City. And we will link to the place to buy tickets on our show notes. So just visit our show notes, and if you're interested in attending this amazing event, and the brewers are going to be there. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And
awesome.
Oh, they're super excited to meet everybody.
That's great.
Awesome.
It's been so nice to see brewers starting to come back to the States. It's been so long, and it's great to finally have these people back here being able to promote their sake in person.
Agreed. It's been a long time coming. And for a lot of these producers, it's their first time here in the U.S. and first time in New York. Wow. So what a great opportunity to meet, greet, and drink sake with them.
Great. Thank you so much for that info. It sounds great.
Yeah. So I'll see you at September 19th. Not going to miss it.
We shall all be there for sure.
Awesome. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. This was just an absolute pleasure tasting through these sakes with you.
Thank you. It's such an honor. And finally, I get to make my mark on Sake Revolution.
Thank you so much for stopping by, Jess. It was really great to see you and really great to be able to chat about sake with you.
Thank you so much, John and Tim Sensei. That was wonderful. And I look forward to sharing more sake adventures with you all. But first and foremost, with Saga Sake.
Aha.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thanks again, Jess, for joining us. And I want to thank all of our listeners so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all of you. And I'd like to give a special hello and thank you as well to our patrons. If you'd like to support Sake Revolution, you can join us on Patreon. And to learn more about that, visit us at patreon.com/sakerevolution. And we look forward to seeing you there.
And that is not the only way to support our show. You can also do it by hopping onto your podcast platform of choice and leaving us a review. That might be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you'd like to do. It really does move the needle on the show and gets it into more ears. So, without any further ado, everybody please grab your glasses. Remember to keep drinking sake and
Kanpai!
Kanpai!